sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS.
Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today is going to be number 2 of a series of how to sell the No BS way. And just want you to know I screwed up in episode 1 because this should have been episode 1. But those of you that are listening, just know that this was the introduction and then the other comes up. So anyway, I screwed up. It happens. So today we're going to talk about how salespeople, how sellers are manipulated by buyers. How we're manipulated to get free information, to get free consulting, which in fact doesn't help us salespeople at all. It actually just gives us a worse reputation. And a lot of buyers have made a whole career out of getting free consulting, free information from salespeople, and then they use it against them. Let's talk about how that works. So in a standard sales process, see if you recognize yourself in this process. Number 1, you identify somebody you're going to call, right? You're going to make a call to. And so you reach out to them, you make a call. If you get through the first time, your goal is probably to set an appointment, right? So make the call, have a conversation. A lot of times you're telling the person who you are, what you do. Goal again to get an appointment. Step 2, if you get the appointment, is to go to the appointment, right? And then your goal there, a lot of times, old school would be, you're going to go there and ask some questions. You're going to educate your buyer. You're going to tell them about what you can do, how you can fix it, right? And then see if you can create a proposal. So step 3 is create proposal. So go back, create your proposal. Some people can do that in 1 minute. Some people can do that it takes some, man days. So I had one engineering company I worked with years ago, and it took them to create a proposal. Like 7 or 8 engineers could take them up to 6 to 7 weeks, all working the whole time on creating a proposal. It was preposterous, right? So they go back, create a proposal. And the next step, obviously, is you present proposal. Maybe that happens in the same meeting. Maybe it doesn't. So you present proposal and you're prepared to overcome any objections, right? So that's what you're ready for. And if you don't get a yes or a no there, often you're hearing things like, let me think it over. Why don't you call me next week? This looks really good. Appreciate that. My partner's traveling. I want to be sure and talk to him about that. Why don't you call me back? So you say, okay, great. And then you leave. Maybe you set an appointment for the next meeting. Maybe you set an appointment for a phone call, whatever it is. And then the next step is you follow up. So it's the old, and there's nothing wrong with this. This is a standard sales process. Many people do it. Most people learned it from other salespeople or from having it done to them in the first place, right? It's the old Dale Carnegie, meet them, greet them, propose them, close them process. Nothing wrong with it. The only thing wrong with the meet them, greet them, propose them, close them process is that everybody knows it. Everybody knows it, including your buyers, including your prospects. They know this process, right? And so people aren't stupid. And nobody wants to be sold. They don't want to be manipulated into buying things, right? They don't want to be sold. So they have created these buyers out there. There's a buyer school somewhere, as somebody once said, and they're teaching these people, how do you handle salespeople so that you keep all the control? Well, here's what they do. They have a 4-step process. You tell me if you recognize this 4-step process that prospects may do to you, and see if you recognize yourself in it. Step number 1 in the buyer's process is they want to find out what your price is. What's the price? Maybe they call you and say, hey, can you mind running a proposal or something? Tell me how much it would cost to do X. First thing they want to do is get the price. Wherever part of in your process that is, they want to get the price. I don't need to say that again, do I? So if you make it through step one of their process, if they don't go, what? That's ridiculous. If you make it through, which oftentimes you will, they bring you in or you have a meeting. Maybe these days it's over Zoom, who knows? And you have a meeting and you're asking them questions and they're asking you questions back. And you, kind salesperson who wants to be helpful, wants to show that you're there and you're excited, they're asking you questions. You're answering questions. You're giving them information. You're telling them, basically showing them how smart you are, which is fine. You finally got somebody who's willing to engage with you. You've made thousands of calls, gotten voicemail thousands of times. They've turned into, I don't know, depends on how long you've been in the business, but anywhere from tens to hundreds of appointments from those thousands of calls. So when you finally have one, you're excited. When somebody's asking you questions, some people see that as a buying signal. I'll talk about buying signals in a little while. See, it's a buying signal. So we share all kinds of information. They say, hey, this really sounds great. How about create a proposal for me? You mind putting that in writing so I can compare apples to apples? So your buyer, very positive, and says, hey, you mind putting that in writing? We call this second step of their process get free consulting. Step one, find out about price. Step two, get free consulting. Step three is where you give them your proposal or you tell them the information and what it's going to be and what it's going to cost. And they will respond to you if they don't say yes or no. But understand, most prospects, including you, including me, we don't want to be wrestled with. Why in the hell would we give a salesperson objections when we know all they're going to do is try and turn them around? They're going to wrestle with us to let us know we were wrong. Nobody wants to have their objections overcome. They just soon not give them. Nobody wants to wrestle with a salesperson, probably not even your spouse. Well, maybe sometimes. So they're not going to give you objections. Typically, they'll keep those in their head. They'll wonder because they know they can go look for it on Google. They can go look it up somewhere else. They've probably done some research. So their third step, instead of telling you no, instead of saying, well, here are the problems with your solution, is they do what's called say nice things and get rid of you. Hey, this looks great. Appreciate the work you've done. You guys really have a good thing going there. Unbelievable. Thank you so much. Super helpful. Right? And so we, salesperson, say, hell yeah, I got one. And they say, why don't you call me back in a couple of days? Give me a week or so. Let me sleep on this. Or, hey, I'm waiting on some other information. I've got some other people I'm talking to. If they give you that, right? So say nice things, get rid of you. Most of us are like, okay, sounds good. Go back, tell the boss, hey, I got one. These people like me. Lots of buying signals. We go into buying signals for a second. The only effing buying statement you should ever pay attention to, the only thing that is a buying signal is when somebody gives you a check or a credit card, a check or PO. Otherwise, there's no such damn thing as a buying signal. Buyers use this happy look on their face because they don't want to wrestle with you. They don't want you to convince them of anything. They want to buy. They like to buy. They just don't want to be sold. There are no buying signals. It's bullshit. So, step one, ask for price. Step two, get free consulting. Step three, say nice things and get rid of you. Step four, when we are reaching out and calling them back, because we're good salespeople, right? And we are persistent and we do what we say we're going to do, and we're going to show that we want the business. And so they said, call us on Friday. And so we reach out on Friday. We, the salespeople, reach out on Friday and we think to ourselves, okay, I don't want to call too early because then I'll seem too eager, but I don't want to call in the afternoon because they might be gone. So we always split the difference and call back about 11:30 in the morning. All right. You ever done that before? 11:30 on Friday. Hey, I think I'll call them back now. Perfect timing. Your prospect who sees your name come up on their phone because everybody's got caller ID and they say, gosh, what a nice person. But I'm not going to buy from them. You know why? because they took your quote, went back to the guy who's currently doing it and said, hey, they cut the price out at the bottom, blacked it out, said, hey, this smart person came by. John, the sales guy, Susan, the salesperson, came by and said they could do this to fix our problems that you, other vendor, incumbent, have caused. Can you do this? Can you do the same things that the other guy's doing? And you know what the incumbent will say? Oh, hell yeah. And then your prospect will say to the incumbent, well, here's the thing. They said they can do it for $8 when you told them 10. They said they can do it for $8. Can you do it for $8? And guess what? Your incumbent, they'll say yes, because they don't want to lose the business, lose the relationship. So your prospect has now renewed his contract with the incumbent at a lower price with your information. And so now you're calling back. And your prospect sees that you're calling and says, oh shit, I know I told that guy to call me. I don't want to talk to him. I'm staying with the current guy. I'm just going to send him a voicemail. So you get a voicemail, leave a message. Hey, John, just called, see if you had any questions. Want to know if I can come by and pick up that contract today. Just want to see you. Don't need to get started. Look forward to talking to you. Thanks. Click. And your heart as a salesperson dies a little bit. And then you go on a couple of days later and you call back and you say, all of a sudden he looks and sees you calling and sends you to voicemail and you say, hey, this is Walker. Just called to see if you had any questions. Hadn't heard back from you. We've got a little time crunch here. Just want to get you started. Call me back. Click. Heart dies a little bit more. So maybe you call back a third time. Maybe it's a couple of days later, a week later, whatever, because you got to be persistent. And you get voicemail again. You know why? Because your prospect sees you calling a third time and they look at their phone. They see you calling again. They go, why doesn't this person get a clue? I've sent them to voicemail twice and now I'm sending them a third time. Leave me alone. That's what your prospect's doing when you call the third time. Have you ever done that? Have you ever felt that way? I have. So we leave our third voicemail. It goes into voicemail hell. Nothing, nowhere. And the buyer doesn't ever want to hear from you again because you've driven them crazy. Who's won? Who's won in that situation? I don't know. Probably nobody. Your incumbent, the incumbent, they've got a crappy deal they can't deliver on. Your prospect, they think they're going to get something that they're not. They're not going to get it, making them more cynical about salespeople. And you have wasted a bunch of time with somebody who's not going to buy. If you follow the prospect system, if you use your old system, you will follow. You will not be in control. Your buyer will have all the control. Why should your buyer have all the control? When I teach people that you should have the same amount of control as your buyer does, you should have the same 50-50 control. Because if you have that, then your job, once you see your job, is to disqualify the prospect, to work to figure out why this may not be the right fit. Be more cynical, be more skeptical is probably a better word than cynical. We need to have a system that countermands the buyer's system. Now, you know the buyer system works because you've done it to other people. You know you have. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Do me the huge favor. If you like this podcast, hell, even if you don't, go to where there are reviews on Apple, if you would, and write a review. If you will write a quick review, even if you say the podcast sucks, I don't care. Apple rewards written reviews. More than stars, it rewards written reviews. If you will go write a review, take a picture of it, and email it to me, walker@walkermckay.com, I will send you a free PDF for the C-suite introduction process, which is a way to get introductions to high-level people, the real decision makers in companies that you probably can't get to with a cold call. So if you will go to iTunes, go to Apple Podcasts and write a review for me, take a picture of it, send it to walker@walkermckay.com. I will send you a free copy of the C-suite introduction process, which has made many of my clients hundreds of thousands of dollars and can do the same for you. Hey, thanks for listening. Share this with somebody else who needs to listen to it. Next week, we're going to talk about how to manage your buyer's expectations.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.